Dude, Honda was such a cool. I mean, not that it's not a cool brand anymore, but I remember, like, I being at university around 2007, 2000 and yeah, 2006, 2007, I think. They were just such a fucking cool brand. They were doing so many cool things, and their marketing was really cool. They had that robot at that time that climbed up the stairs by itself, which obviously
The
now is.
Asimo.
Dude, that thing was so sick. It was just
Yeah.
and they had that. I don't know if this was a international campaign, but I remember like the advert still today. It was like the power of dreams. That was their
The
thing.
power of dream. The power of dream. It's one
So
of the
cool,
best.
dude. So cool.
Yeah.
And I never really had a thing for Honda at all, but I remember like for the first time, like really paying attention to what they were doing, and they just really embodied like real innovation. Like no,
Yeah.
just real innovation, just really cool stuff. And yeah, so that must have been really cool and obviously really difficult to walk away from. So that's difficult, dude. I On the subject of teaching, have you ever considered going into a university to teach?
Yes, but I did some job at university, but it's not a full course in Brazil because I just have the bachelor degree. I don't have any other kind of a master, and it's required in Brazil
Okay.
to do something like this to be a teacher inside the university. So I decided to teach by myself with my studios, and it's great for me because most of the talented designers don't have anything else than the bachelor degree in Brazil.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the universities unfortunately don't accept those guys. There's a reason why we don't have automotive courses or transportation courses in Brazil, like official courses,
Yeah.
degree courses, like we see internationally. And there's a lot of bureaucracy, so politics, and I don't like it. And that's the reason why nowadays I don't change my job. I don't change my freedom to be inside a institute like universities or colleges, or even come back to industry, because man, I don't like the politics,
Yeah, no,
and
I
bureaucracy.
think a lot of people don't like that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and dude, what you're doing is a lot of fun as well, and you don't have to. I mean, you can do things totally on your own terms. You can totally, pick. I mean, you could do anything you want, really,
Yes.
which is really cool. And you can also decide to focus on the things that you feel are important. So, and also getting to meet all these people must be interesting as well. Before COVID, did you guys do live workshops at your place?
Yes. I usually, before doing the one-on-one classes and the online classes, I usually have some kind of workshops right here, or full courses like a 4 weeks course. We always had from 2009 until 2017, we had a lot of students physically. We had almost 600 students, which is quite,
Jesus.
yes, it's quite amount of students. If you think about, this is a physical space, and we are not a college, and it's just a course. It's just a studio teaching automotive design and product design stuff.
Wow. How many people would be on a course, for example, on a like that 4 week course? How many people would come in?
Arthur and I, we could manage 10 to 12 students at maximum, but the average was most of the time 7. maybe 7 students, you
Okay.
average, which is a good number that you can take care about what that students is doing. And it was an amazing experience with them.
When was the last time you've done something like that?
When it
Yeah.
was, maybe it was on 2017.
Is that the last
The,
time you did these workshops in
yeah,
person?
yeah,
Do
yeah.
you think would you experiment with that again after COVID?
That's for sure. Nowadays, I would like to do some kind of a mentoring, which is more focused
Yeah.
in creating not teaching from scratch, but improving portfolios, uh, preparing students to the industry.
Yeah.
I really would like to do some kind of a mentoring like that with a group of students. So, okay, this group, we're going to focus on portfolio stuff. This group, we're going to focus on Volkswagen contest stuffs, or this group, we can focus on creating some kind of a portfolio for a master degree admission or something like this. And I feel that in Brazil, we don't have any more. Most of the colleges don't teach sketching and rendering techniques. So I would like to do some kind of a mentoring for not only automotive students, but designing all the fields, sneakers,
Yeah. Yeah.
fashion,
Yeah. Yeah.
product,
Yeah.
furniture,
Yeah.
because I can do it because I think in Brazil, I'm one of the most complete designers because I worked with product design, I worked with motorcycle design, I worked with the transportation design. So, well, there's a lot of, you know, content to teach, to share with the students.
For sure. I think. I mean, it's. I mean, it's also, rightly or wrongly so, but we kind of have that notion of like, if you can design a car, you can do anything, sort of thing. And there's maybe some truth to that, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely useful that you've done all those different things. You know what you could do as well, which would be really good, is if you like a friend of mine's got an IT company in South Africa, and they've started doing like these big boot camps as well. I mean, pre-COVID, and they would have people come like from overseas, from Europe or whatever, and go there for like 2 months or however long, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, I don't know how long, and or shorter as well. And then, but they would do like a whole package. Like they would organize like, safaris and surf trips and all this sort of
Wow.
stuff alongside the coding, to get this whole holistic experience. And that's something like, where you are, you could probably also do something really cool like that as well, like have this kind of tourism angle on it as well, where you plan a short trip like that, I don't know, however long, and you incorporate all the things that you into, your well-being and your meditation and all that sort of stuff, but a hiking, to mix up the whole thing. That could be a really cool thing.
I'm pretty sure about that because it's a nice experience. Sometimes the students think that just sketching and rendering is what matters the most. But to sketch something or design something, you need more than sketching skills. You need information. You need experience. And when I say experience, it's a matter of a sensorial experience. You have to watch, you have to breathe, you have to touch, you have to taste. That's the reason why that's funny because there was a moment in 2017 that during the workshop sessions, there was one class that I really love to show an episode on Netflix about what was the name of the series? Chef's Table.
Abstract. Ah, yes.
No, Chef's Table. And why Chef's Table? Because it's about gastronomy. It's not about design. Well,
Well,
when you
there's a
see
lot.
one guy, when you see one guy like Virgilio Martinez, which is he's a chef from Peru, and he explores the atmosphere of Peru to create his dishes. You know, sometimes I think those guys, those chefs, they are more designers than us because they think about, well, what is the elements I have to create a new dish, what kind of experience I want to that my public feels. What can I do? The visual, the taste, the sensations. You know, there's a lot of things they have to do with some sort of ingredients, and they are really good about that. Maybe one day I can do a live explaining design from this point of view, from the gastronomy point of view. You know, because that's the way I learn, and that's the way I teach design. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, the chef analogy is quite interesting as well because I've seen you know, some of them are sketching out ideas on paper as well, you know, but it isn't
Yes.
this mindless exercise of just drawing the same thing over and over. It actually is going like, oh fuck, I had this idea, let me document it down on paper,
Exactly.
you know, and it's not
Exactly.
this competition to say, look at this nice picture that I created. It's actually to extract what's on your head, put it onto paper, and then move on to the next idea. So it's pretty interesting. And dude, the stuff that some of those guys are doing now is just like really interesting. I really enjoyed that series. It's a really beautifully presented and produced series. It's really cool.
Exactly. I wish that my courses would have the same quality from this chef tables presentations. You know, the starting and the whole set they do, the lights, the recording way. You know, it's
But
amazing.
dude,
But now I'm just one
those
guy.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is as well, like, I mean, at the end of the day, the story, the content is obviously king. And the more, you know, the more you grow, the more you can invest in that sort of thing as well. But I mean,
Sure.
it's easy to, you know, you can't, I don't think people realize how many people are involved in a production like that. You know, it's just, it's
Yes.
outrageous. I mean, it's not just, I mean, the equipment for one thing is insane as well, like those anamorphic lenses and whatnot. It's crazy. But then, you know, the crew of people, like during like the pre-production, the actual filming of it, and then the post-production on afterwards, it's outrageous, dude. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. I think you're doing a pretty good job the way things are going at the moment. But you should really consider doing like a trip like that. I mean, dude, you could also even go down, like, you know, rent a house in fucking Rio or somewhere on the coast and like take guys surfing, you know, like sketch in the morning, surf in the afternoon, a bit like a diving
Why not?
course, you know, like
Why not?
you can like, yeah, I don't know, guys go like learn their theory in the morning and in the afternoon they dive, and it's just like a nice, I don't know, it's a nice way to spend the day because you can't just do it all day every day. I mean, you can, of course, but it's often when you step away from it that either ideas come, and also it can actually mean that, you know, the time that you are sketching or modeling or whatever it is, that you are more productive as a result, you know.
Exactly. Sometimes when I had those classes with my students, sometimes we at the lunchtime we went to some kind of a nice place. There's a street in Sao Paulo, which has a lot of sports car brand. You know, at the time they had a Jaguar, they had a Aston Martin, Ferrari, Lamborghini. So we usually had a lunch close to that place, and we just spent maybe 1 hour walking by the neighborhood, you know, watching some Ferraris crossing the streets, looking some Lamborghinis, just to give to that guys the taste of the real design stuffs, you know, the real automotive stuffs, just to feel then with a lot of information, with a lot of passion, and the results were amazing at that time, you know. But I
Yeah.
really like this idea of going to another place, you know, doing some sketches, you know, surfing, in spite of the fact that I don't surf. I'm not good enough with that. But it's good to have this contact with another kind of a atmosphere, you know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be a thing. I mean, not necessarily in design, but it could be. You know, I mean, it's like, you know,
Why not?
doing a yoga retreat as well. You know, for example, I think especially in a place like Brazil, it could be the perfect setup. You know, and you can, yeah, it could be a really cool thing. You should get onto it. Um, dude, like, is there anything that you've like learned like from teaching, going from being a designer and then becoming a an instructor or an educator or a teacher? I mean, is there what sort of things have you learned from that?
From being a designer to a teacher.
Yeah, like there's I've heard from quite a few people that, you know, if you want to really master something, that, you know, once you've kind of feel like you've learned everything that you can by actually doing something, that when you go and you teach it or you prepare to teach it, there's like another level of mastery that comes with it, because you're thinking about it in such a pragmatic way that you have
Yeah.
to get everything so clear in your head, because you're relaying this information to somebody else. And I
Yeah.
wondered if you could maybe elaborate on that.
Okay, so and then it is good because we go back to the other question you asked about how did I learn the techniques I know nowadays about sketching and rendering. Well, it was when I had the students inside the studios, inside this studio right here, we usually had some kind of you know, just a marker techniques and manual sketching. And then when I had to change to digital rendering, I had to change the way I rendering my stuffs, because I couldn't spend half a day doing one rendering and trying to teach the guys, you know, because it could be so boring for them that I had to do something to change that. And I had a lot of experience. First of all, I tried to teach them creating Photoshop stuffs with a lot of layers. Well, who uses Photoshop to rendering knows that most of the designers creates more than 100 layers to create their renderings. Then I couldn't do that because they wouldn't feel so confident, you know? And then I started merging the layers just to keep less than 5 layers. So when students saw that, they felt, man, he's merging all the layers. What can I do right now? Because if he has a lot of experience, I don't have this experience. So when I started doing this, merging all the layers, they didn't feel confident to use the technique. So that's the reason why I started changing again my methods to establish the method I teach today, the 3 pillars of rendering. It was just a matter of doing something more organized. Because, well, if we have a method to do manual renderings, for example, when we do manual renderings, we start with the lightest gray tone and go to the darkest one. So I thought about, well, I can do something like this. So I'm first thinking about the shadows, features, lights, and so on. Like, just telling a story along the whole process. That's the reason why I created this method, like I call it the layer workflow. And it gave me the chance to teach the rendering techniques in less than 1 hour. And then when I saw students doing this in less than 1 hour, I felt, well, I got it. Because when I moved to motorcycle to automotive design for an automotive studio, I had a lot of problems. I had a lot of issues to follow the same skills from the other guys, because those guys were maybe 6 or 7 years doing automotive stuff, and I spent the same 6 or 7 years doing motorcycle stuff, which is totally different. And when I had to move to General Motors and start doing interiors, which is one of the hardest things in my life, I felt, what am I doing right here? What am I doing here? And then I had to learn a lot to follow the same level of the top guys inside the studios. So I had to learn a lot. And then when I created this method, I felt, well, this is a breakthrough now for those who wants to understand and work with a Photoshop rendering. It's a good way to work with the Photoshop rendering. And I started doing not only 1 or 2 design things a day. I felt that I could produce 5 or 6 full renderings a day. And then if I could do that, my students could do the same. So 3 pillars of rendering for me, it's my child, it's my baby. And then it was good because I started developing another ways to draw cars, to design cars. I don't like to say sketching cars because we design cars. So, and sometimes people on social media make some confusing about sketching and designing. Sketching is just a tool. It's just a way we communicate our ideas. We are designing something. And then when I felt that I could create something for rendering, I started creating another method for sketching, which you couldn't, where you don't need to use those kind of complex perspective constructions or make your car looks like a Frankenstein, just to make it, just to fit the perspective rules, because when I was young, I just had, I could just find some kind of a tutorials from Scott Robertson and
Harold
Simon
Belker and
Harold Belker, he was one of the first. Ryan Church,
Ryan Church,
those are the guys.
Noman
those
Workshops.
are the guys that I studied. Yes.
I've
And
got some
then-
pirated DVDs somewhere around here. Of those guys, Oh fuck! You know what? I think Scott Robertson actually has seen a couple of these. I need to be careful what I say. Maybe, hopefully, he doesn't watch this episode.
Well, actually, I can say that 2 weeks ago, I was speechless during a live session in Brazil, because when I saw the chat, there was a American guy watching the live, and he just wrote in the chat in English, and when I saw it was Scott Robertson, and what? Scott
Jesus.
Robertson coming in my life? Oh my gosh. It was an honor, because I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from his books. I sometimes I mix my technique with another from techniques from another guys to try to find a way that makes the job easier for the students or for the designers, because the most important thing is about the idea, to transmit your idea, not only doing the golden rendering or the golden sketch, but doing a nice job, and get some skills for that.
But Leo, that was one of the things that I mean, I haven't seen all the material on your course, obviously, but I really liked the way that you were able to simplify the construction of like a front 3/4 sketch, for example. With your round ellipse and the placing a tire roughly in the wheel in the center, and constructing things like that in a kind of an organic way, because I used to watch those Gnomon Workshop DVDs, and I was just like, it was fucking impossible, because like he would literally, I mean, they were fucking masters at this, where they would like basically create sections of the car or a plane, for example, all the way through in a way that, the way that Italians would make a buck for sculpting the metal work, and everything would be perfect, like with vanishing points in the right way, wheel perspectives spot on, and all that stuff. And that crippled me, because I could never do that. I just don't have the concentration for it. It's impossible. So I think had like your stuff been around at that time, it would have been really useful for me. So I think it's really cool, dude. It's really nice that you were able to kind of find a simple way to teach that, because it's not like, at the end of the day, all those things, the vanishing points and perspective and all that stuff, you need to understand the principles of them. But if you spend all your energy trying so hard to make the perfect mathematically correct, I mean, it's never going to be mathematically correct, but follow those things to the nth degree, you're not a fucking draftsman at the end of the day. You want to sketch something. You were talking about soul earlier on, and that focusing too much on that will suck the soul out of whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's the problem with the students. That's the problem. That's the reason why they feel kind of frustrating sometimes, because they have the technique, but the sketch is not good because there's no soul. He wasn't so preoccupied with the design stuff, the design elements, but just to finish some kind of a rendering and show, okay, I finished this rendering. Now like my rendering, like. That's not the meaning, sometimes I see some students that, okay, the sketch is not so good, but those elements, the lines has some kind of a meaning. There's some kind of a connection. He knows how to create those kind of a connections and proportions, but the sketch wise is not so good, but design wise, it's brilliant, and I can say that students should focus more in have this design wise, or this design skill improved more than the sketching skills or rendering skills. Once you have the design skills, once you learn all the car design fundamentals, you have all the tools necessary to create a nice design or and do some nice renderings, independent of the level or skills you have,
Well, one of the other things that you said was also really interesting. I mean, you haven't said it today, but I've heard you talk about it on Instagram, which is like, don't line weight and line quality, it is important to develop, but in the beginning, and I mean this goes for everything actually, is like proportion is everything. So you can have
Exactly.
like a shitty line quality, but if the proportion is there, it's still going to look pretty fucking good, And there's plenty of examples out there, and of guys. I mean, I've seen designers kind of make almost. I mean, it's when they get to a certain level where they're confident enough to play around with this, but almost on purpose try to make a shitty sketch, but over a nice, good, solid proportion, and it looks
Exactly.
fucking great.
Exactly. That's the reason why nowadays when I receive those kind of a question, okay, how can I improve my line weight? And I say, man, you don't have to focus on your line weight. You're focusing your abilities in the wrong way. You should focus on design. Learn car fundamentals. Okay, you can improve your line weight, but do you know the car fundamentals? You know that you have to focus on stance, proportions, shapes, graphics, instead of line weight. Because your chief designer won't see, okay, he has a beautiful line weight, but what about the design? This is what you want to hear in terms of feedback from your bosses. No, you just want to hear, man, your design is good. You can go forward with this, with that. Not only, okay, you have a beautiful line weight. Next. What the fuck? Line weight control, line weight skills, or line weight quality comes with practicing. And I see nowadays students practicing in the wrong way because they focus more on pick up some piece of papers and do infinite ellipses, a lot of ellipses, and some straight lines. Why don't you focus and pick up some kind of a piece of papers and start practicing your line weight, your skills with the car proportion? You don't need to put the graphics. You just first step, setting the proportions, setting the wheels on the right place. That's the point. And that's the reason why I created some kind of, you see some blurred sketches behind me, because I created some kind of 140 sketches or 140 views to start practicing the right proportions. So you can pick up something like this, use it as a underlay, and then practice a lot of proportions first, because this is what really matters. The first point that the chief designers analyze is the proportions. Car is about proportions. When proportions wrong, everything is a messy. Why we love much Porsches, why we love some Ferraris, and why we hate some Hyundais on the past, because Hyundai's proportion were so wrong and so weird that they had to put a lot of graphics in the car to kind of hiding that wrong proportion. Why Audi is so good? Why Volkswagen is so good in terms of proportion? They spend hours and hours and hours working on proportions. And that's what really matters. And nowadays, when I do some kind of a review with my students, I say, when I see any students in my design review doing a beautiful rendering, I say, man, you burned all the steps. I don't want to see your best rendering right now. I want to see your proportions first. Your line weight doesn't really matter right now. I want to see proportions. When you see my lives on YouTube, you see that, okay, nowadays I have some intuitive skills for line weight. That's because I practiced this for almost 20 years, so nowadays for me it's natural to have a nice line control. But I can tell you, I'm not good doing ellipses, and that's fine. because I found another way to create my wheels without doing the perfect ellipses. You know, I learned it with Scott Robertson. I learned it with a lot of other guys that they don't create the perfect ellipses at the first time. You know,
Yeah.
so I think it's just a matter of keep the focus in what really matters, proportions and stance. Once you get that, you can jump into the, other stuff like shapes, graphics, and line weight comes naturally with the practice. It's just a matter of practice. Sometimes the students say, "Oh, I cannot achieve a nice line weight quality." How many sketches did you do in one day, or just one? Man, this is not practicing. So sorry. You will
Dude,
see some kind of evolution of 10 or 20 sketches.
we had like I don't know, a few months ago, I had this Ivan Schmartov on, the sell Porsche to buy Porsche guy, and he literally, like, he started when he started on his course, he thought like, I'm already like pretty fucking good, so I don't need to worry too much, and he put up his sketches and whatnot, and some guy from Mercedes came over and he was like, this is whose bullshit is this, take it down, like, throw it in the bin, sort of thing. And he was like, what the fuck are you doing here? You're not good enough. You've got a week to sort your shit out. And he literally, like, he was told to get a stack of photocopy paper, like a stack like that. And he's like, if you haven't gone through every single one of those pages by this time next week, I'm not going to give you any of my time, because you need to realize like how much you need to be practicing. And I know that can kind of be confusing as well for somebody starting up, because as you highlighted earlier on, like just sketching all the time without filling your mind with information and learning and whatnot is also useless. But at in the beginning, you have to master your craft, which sketching is part of that if you want to become a designer, because that's the thing that you communicate your ideas with, and before you start, or the way that you problem solve on paper. But ultimately, you need to convince other people to buy into your idea, and you need to communicate that. And the way that you do that, the first part of that is sketching. So you need to master that, and then once you have got to a point where you're like, okay, this is pretty fucking good, then you need to be smart with it and come up with innovative solutions by looking at different technologies or different platforms or different surface languages or form languages, taking your inspiration from here, there, and everywhere, from unusual places, not just other cars, and then hopefully you can come up with something unique.
Exactly. That's the reason why I recommend my students, when they are doing their ideations, stop looking any other car. Because when you see another cars, you are influenced by those lines, by those proportions, and so on. That's the reason why I say for them, just see anything else, but not cars. Just to not have those kind of influence. I know there's some part of the job that you need to have those cars, like when you're doing some benchmarking, just compare your car with the other competitors, but that's it. Only this step is allowed to use another cars. You have to manage and create another kind of skills to grow up in this career.
Yeah. Leo, I think we'll probably start wrapping up soon. Is there any? You've already spoken quite a lot from a kind of teacher-student perspective, but is there anything else that you can think of that you would advise somebody wanting to become a designer today?
First of all, don't think about design by the money. Okay, that's the first point. We know car design pays a good amount of money, quite in a lot of places around the world. But don't focus on that. Focus more on the experience you're gonna have. Don't be inside your bubble. I mean, your family bubble. It's kind of a breakthrough for your life. And when you see the most famous designers, they are not in their homeland. They are, working around the world. And get your anxiety and put in the trash. Get your ego, put in the trash. Be open to be criticized. If you want to become a car designer, think about that. You will be criticized all the time. You're not doing a design for yourself. You're doing a design for a customer, for a client. Your first client is your boss. And the second client is the people who will buy your car. You have to get your mind open for that. The sketches you're posting your Instagram, so sorry, it's a bullshit close to what you're gonna do inside the industry. Sometimes sketches we see on Instagram or the tutorials we see on YouTube, it's not the real life. Okay, inside the studios, you have to communicate your design for a clay modeler, for a digital sculptor, to a presentation for your bosses, for a director board. So think about that. I receive a lot of questions from students saying, "Oh, how can I deal with the critics about my sketch?" Man, it's your ego speaking out loud. Just pick up your ego and go fuck your ego out there. Be yourself, open mind to everything. Not only car design. Okay, I'm a car designer. I'm not gonna see anything about gastronomy. I'm not gonna see nothing about motorcycle or anything else. No, you are a fucking designer. You're a product designer who loves cars. So be open mind. Put your ego out. Be open to critics. And stay calm. Everything will come in the right time. I did a post yesterday in my stories about that. God has a plan for you, So don't try to accelerate that, because it's not on your time. It's on His time, So if you're not getting a job right now, that's because you're not ready. There's something that you need to pass through. I think it's the right way to say that. But anyway, something needs to happen to you to achieve that goal. Okay, you want to become a Lamborghini designer. Okay, you will, if you want, if you desire that. But it's not in the first shot. Maybe you need to get a job in a Chinese company, then move to United States, and then work in another European company, and then you'll be ready to become a Lamborghini designer. 10 years after you started thinking about being a Lamborghini designer. I think that's the message that I can pass for the younger designers, for the people watching us.
Great words. Thank you very much, Leo. I really, really enjoyed that, dude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this kind of awesome opportunity.
Oh, thank you.